I was checking out the movie poster of Dune 2, the sequel, and seeing how simple and monotone it was. Checking out the design as well, also very basic. And then I remembered the first one from 21 and how beautifully complex and classical that was. And it was immediately recognizable to me because it's a 1.5 and that's a 35mm full frame, which I work in all the time. So I have a strong sense of the golden section reciprocals, especially the diagonals, and that's a level of pattern recognition for me that goes back decades. Only thing I'm not into here is bringing back that old orange and teal color grade from the mid-2000s. That's a slightly more refined version of that, but that's basically what it is. I don't like color grading in general. I like accurate color science, but when you're a giant studio and you're dealing with a bunch of content from a bunch of different people and you want to create uniformity really fast, it's just an easy way to do that. And there's a long history of classical design in cinema which dates back to photography, where it started taking those old classical grids from painters and applying it to the 35mm full frame, specifically the 1.5. And if you look at things like The Third Man and you have that crazy dimension, that 1.33, which is traditionally two 1.5 side by side. I think they were using an acetate grid on their ground glass when they were shooting this. I used to use that also in the film days because it allows for a level of precision that takes out the guesswork when you're concerned with uniformity of design across a large body of work, which is exactly what a film is. So that's just how early cinematographers wrap their heads around basic composition. And when I see something this obvious, I just have to map it out. And what makes it obvious? Anytime you see the primary diagonals of a rectangle being used, right from the corners, you know something's up, and in this case, they're using both. Here's the basics of a 1.5. It's a square and a half, that's why it's called 1.5. It's not a traditional root rectangle like root 2, root 3, root 4. And the way to find that manually is just take a right angle to the primary diagonal. Where that hits the edge is the reciprocal, which is the next size down in exact dimensions of the primary rectangle. And that's the whole point of the golden section, is you can take your elements of design, your basic composition, and place it into mathematical unity within any shape or space, whether it's arbitrary or root. So now that should make a lot more sense if you're not used to seeing this or you didn't even know it was a thing. You got the primary, you got the secondary reciprocal. What if I put a secondary of the same size right in the center? It's really, really structured. Maybe everything together is not that overwhelming now, left side. I'm going to clean up the right side and lay down some major divisions so you can see where those angles are coming from and how they relate to the whole. And now I'm going to turn the center on with them because it's just crazy symmetrical. And one more thing that's interesting to note is right around that time, this came out, The Last Duel. And while I couldn't find any kind of golden section relationship, they are obviously playing with basic elements of design. I mean, we know this angle is legit. It pretty much matches that. On the bottom here, I can see the foot on the left, the hand close, the dress, that's questionable. The clouds up top in the direction of his forehead. When someone is this heavy-handed with repeating diagonals, they'll generally just throw in the exact opposite in the same number of repetitions for balance. Some verticals. I mean, I can keep going here, but I think you probably get the idea.